Welcome to Networking RX, a podcast devoted to helping business professionals like you enhance your networking skills in order to become more proficient giving and receiving quality business referrals and improving the overall quality of your life and the lives of those around you. The Networking RX podcast is a production of AmSpirit Business Connections, an organization whose mission is to empower business success through networking.
I know I've shared on this podcast that the COVID lockdown was really kind of an awakening for me, just in the sense that I started to use Zoom in a whole different way. And before I did, I just used it for podcasting, but I never dreamed I would be on a call or organize a call with 50 people. And through that, I have really met a lot of really neat people who are really connected all over the world doing all sorts of neat things. And I like to share that story because it is really powerful, and it does make me wonder, okay, what else am I missing? And that's not the subject of this particular conversation. What I want to talk about today, or who I want to talk to today, is somebody I met before all of that. Because when I started meeting people in the COVID lockdown who were networking types, it was very interesting. I met a lot of people, but I've got Adam Connors on with me today. And Adam was one of these people that I met beforehand. We're both podcasters. And he has an organization, I'd rather call it a movement, called NetworkWise. And it's a company that expedites outcomes for people through professional networking. And when we first met, it was kind of one of those things where it's like, imagine somebody looks at themselves in the mirror for the first time. They don't know what a mirror is. That's what I felt like when I met you, Adam. It's just like, oh my God, this guy is like mimicking me. It's like you're my me in another world, because we talked the same language. So anyhow, welcome back.
Oh, what a great intro. And I so am in tune with everything that you just said. And I don't know if it's because, they say, what is it saying? To be like is to be liked, or to be liked is to be liked. Yeah, something to that effect. Because it was really similar. It was a breath of fresh air, Frank, to speak with you. I was so happy when we connected, because I could tell that, here's a true relationship guy. Here's a guy that walks the walk, talks the talk. I remember you immediately after our first conversation, I think you introduced me to Terry Bean. And then I think the next conversation, you introduced me to Casey Hasten, who I love Casey.
She loves you. She's
fantastic. And you introduced me to Jason Cutler, great guy, Matt Ward, numerous high quality people. And you weren't keeping score. It was just your genuine nature to ask really good questions, genuinely care about the answers, and to take some time to be thoughtful about who you were going to introduce me to, in terms of just the people that I would vibe with and would just get value from, and hopefully vice versa. So I was really happy that we aligned, and again, I think a testament to both of us that we've just stayed in touch.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's and I was happy. I was happy. I'm always happy to introduce people, because as I kind of alluded to, certainly with Casey, that was a win-win. She thinks you're great. When I talk to her, she keeps going on. He introduced me to this person and this person and this person. I would love to have a computer program, and I'm sure they're out there, where we could just dump our my contacts in there. Because what I do with contacts, and we all do, I use Outlook a lot. I use a CRM for a lot of my prospecting, but just normal contacts, I don't use my CRM. I just use Outlook. And whenever I meet somebody, if you connect me to somebody, I'll write, Adam Connors, so I can take that information and I can say, okay, where did I meet this person? Oh, Adam. I met it from Adam. Then I can look back and see another, where did I meet Adam from? Our meeting was organic. My point is that I can follow those daisy chains back, and I'm willing to bet that if I pumped all that information into a computer it would create this pyramid that would lead back to you, right? Or Terry Bean, or Matt Ward, or Berta Medina is another one, right? I mean, it's just like,
yep.
and it's just a powerful thing.
Can I interject for a quick second? So
I'm interviewing you. Please do.
So I literally, I'm the last call I just got on before you and I just jumped on. I'm in the process of upgrading my database, and so I am a data junkie, and I've used so many different CRMs. I'm so unimpressed with Salesforce. Really not a fan of HubSpot, and these are the two biggest CRM organizations out there. And I use a product that actually isn't even that great either, but it has one feature that keeps me using this database. And what it is, it's called a relativity feature. And what that feature does, so like I just told you who you introduced me to. I'm going to pull this up. I'm going to pull it up right now. And I wish that we had more time. Maybe when this is over, I'll go through it with you. But I have that ability through this relativity feature that maps out who I know. So it does exactly what you just described. So, and it's massively powerful in terms of like who I'm connected with, who they're connected with, how we are all connected together. Amazing. It's such an awesome product.
Oh, that is neat. That is neat. I mean, I think it's an important exercise, and I think at times we can overanalyze things, but it is still good to know who are your capstones, who are your pyramid capstones out there.
You got some good ones. Well, let me ask you this, if I could put you on the spot for a second. So, how many people would you say? I mean, listen, you've got this amazing podcast, right? You break things down. I truly put you at the again, the capstone, the pinnacle of people that truly get it. Not saying it to blow your ego, just is what it is, own it. So you've got this amazing podcast. Mm-hmm. You've got this great business where you're, essentially this is what you do. You've lived this awesome life of just helping all of these people through all of your travels and the thousands and thousands of people that you've come across. How many people would you say truly understand what networking is and kind of walk the walk, talk the talk?
Very, very few. I'm disappointed to say that. I had shared with you when we reconnected a couple of weeks ago, when I was reaching out to you, say, hey, I need you back on the show. That I'm starting groups out in California and reached out to all sorts of people out in California that I know. And I don't keep score. You know that I don't keep score. Yep. But these are people that I had done things for, and they've always said, hey, if you ever need something, let me know. I wasn't asking them to buy anything. I was just saying, hey, if you could make one or two connections for me, that would be great. I got out of 15 emails, I probably had one person respond. Legitimate response with, hey, yeah, okay. Others wasn't even, I would have even appreciated, hey, listen, I can't help you. It wasn't even that. And that was very telling to me. I mean, I'm human. I was upset at first, right? I mean, and now this is 8 weeks ago, so I haven't heard back. So it's not like, hey, Frank, maybe they were busy. Okay, yeah. Maybe they were. That's great. Somebody won the lottery out there, right? It may have been them. But yeah, it's disappointing, and but that doesn't put me off from being who I am, because if Casey needs something, I'm going to refer her, and I'm not going to worry about what might come to me. And but you qualified it to say, how many people out there talk the talk, walk the talk? There's a lot of people who talk the talk but don't necessarily walk the walk. That's the difference. That's a huge separator.
Yeah. So I want to tell you two things. Remind me to tell you the story, because I'll forget. But I want to tell you. So I ran through a little drill. So my database that I'm talking about, through the past 20 years, I've built this amazing database of very successful people for a bunch of different businesses. And I've got 109,000 people in my database. Okay.
Yep.
So I got 109,000 people. And there was a target type of audience that I was looking to connect with, because, I had a reflective moment. All right, well, listen, throughout all these years, knowing all these people, let's break this thing down. So, I broke it down. I'm very into data and quantifying things. So, one of the data points I used was success. And success, that's very subjective, but like, that's a data point that I used.
Yep.
Another data point that I used was somebody that was at a certain level of their business, meaning, they could be an entrepreneur, a CEO, just, someone sitting in the C-suite, just someone that certain modicum of success. Boom. Then I had, like, well, who's got a pay it forward mentality? Okay, people that will give first. Okay,
Yep.
boom. And then I've got, I call something a no ask hole. Those are the people that, are always asking for things but don't give. So that was the criteria that I ran. 109,000 people. What do you think that number? What came out of 109,000 people?
Well, you and I had this conversation, so I just, for our audience, I was kind of privy to, my original guess was around 1,000. That was my original guess.
Correct.
So you drum roll, please.
So the actual number, I think when I had ran it with you, it was 184. I reran it again because I'm like, this has got to be wrong. 186 people.
Yeah.
So 0.01%, 0.017%.
Yeah.
So again, it's subjective. None of what I put was objective, but even if that number was 1,000 out of 109,000, that's a 1%er. So there's a reason for that. And I want to piggyback. So I want to tell you that other story. So just last night, I'm driving back with a friend of mine from Nantucket. He's very, very well to do. And he asked me to read a text that came through. His texts were going, he's driving or whatever. So I read the text, and this guy's like, hey, I don't want to say my friend's name. Hey, such and such, I'm really sorry I didn't get back to you, blah, blah, blah. And he goes through this long text about why he didn't. And it was just excuse. All I read was excuse. So, and then my friend says, hey, well, when was it? When did you last talk? And I looked back at the text, and it looked like it was about 3 months had gone by. So my friend is a very influential person. And I said, oh, well, how do you want me to respond? He says, don't respond. And I said, well, why not? He goes, this guy told me he was going to call me back, or he was going to follow up on something. He's like, I don't care what's going on in your life. He's like, you can even just send a text. I'm sorry, I'll get back to you at another time.
Yeah.
So now my friend has an opportunity that could, I don't know about changing this guy's life, but he's got an opportunity that could really impact this man in a very positive way. And that man just lost it. He just missed the boat because he didn't just follow up.
Yeah.
Simple.
Yeah. No, I was talking to somebody last week. Same sort of thing. Somebody didn't thank them. And they're like me. I'm not waiting around for somebody's thank you. I'm not. A follow-up is nice. An acknowledgement is nice. But this person, they were kind of waiting for a thank you and didn't get it. And then happened to be on a call with the person 3 weeks later. And they knew that the business had closed, right? That the person they connect with had closed in business. They knew the question they were answering. Hey, how did that introduction go? Oh, it was great. We're doing business. I've just been so busy, I haven't had time to thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm not buying it.
Listen, success leaves clues.
It does.
And again, I think there's an Oprah quote, if someone wants to show you who they are, let them. So it to me, it's so, I do get disappointed, because you meet people, you like them. You don't know if it was just bad upbringing. They're just too caught up in their own world, whatever it might be. But either way, I find it disappointing because, maybe it's because I just appreciate relationships so much.
Yeah.
So I want to do, whatever I can on my end to deliver. A gentleman that was on my show, a good friend, guy by the name of Bill O'Haron, he's like, he's trying to level set me. He's like, listen, in a relationship, you can only do 100% of your 50%. But if
Yeah.
you could do your 100%, you should at least feel good about it, and and sleep well at night. But you can only control your 100% of your 50%.
Yeah. No, well, there's another name of somebody you connected me with, and he's been on my program a couple of times with the
Yeah.
books he's done. Yeah. No, but Bill's like super smart. I remember listening to the interview you had with him, and it was like, I don't know if I want this guy on my podcast, because he is really smart. He is really smart, but he does, um, I remember him saying it was on yours, and then he brought it on mine. But he said, when you go into a relationship, when you go into a marriage, you're going in with 8 relationships, right? The 4 you bring. I'm like, well, what are the 4 I bring? Well, your relationship with yourself, right?
Good
You know,
memory. That's right. Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
your relationship with your parents, your mom and your dad. And then your parents' relationship. There's 4 on your side, and your spouse is bringing her 4. And it's like, oh my gosh, that is so true, because you see relationships that work really well. And it's like, okay, these 2 combination of relationships jive. But if you have another set of relationships, one family's very frugal with money for whatever reason, but it's a frugal,
Yep.
and the other one's like, don't worry about it. We'll find money, just spend, spend. That's, I don't want to say a formula for disaster, but it's certainly there's certainly stress in that relationship. And it's not just marital relationships, it's business relationships too. If you're in a business relationship where if you're somebody who's really prone to, I need to be on time, I need to be early, I need to be organized, your relationship with somebody who's kind of, I'm always 5 minutes late, it's not going to go as well.
Yeah.
Um,
So true. So true.
but you know, what I take away from what I took away, and I shared your story about 109,000 people with my wife, and it was 184 and now 186. What I took away from that, for our listeners, is, yeah, it's a sadly small number, but it's very easy, if you're part of Adam's world, to be number 187. It's very easy. We're not talking about, hey, you got to win the lottery and be 6'4" and blue eyes. It's like, it's just, these are things that you can totally control. Following up, saying thank you.
Such a great point.
Yeah. So yeah, it's an easy thing, and I like having these conversations with people who struggle. I'll talk to people on LinkedIn who they'll come at me hard, and I'll tell people this doesn't work, and a lot of people are like, they won't listen, but there's always somebody who will listen. Somebody
Yeah.
will listen. Not everybody, but somebody.
Well, I'll tell you what's interesting, Frank, is that, as you know, I go and I do a lot of trainings with organizations, and it never ceases to amaze me that how many people they're just not aware.
Yeah.
So it's, some people are just too busy, and it's not that important. But there is a significant amount of people that really just aren't aware of like social norms. So I try to cut some slack, but it's a significant population of people that really just, and I don't know if it's just a generational thing. I'm not sure. I don't have enough information on that, but it's something significant that I've noticed.
Yeah, I don't, I think part of it is that people who are self-employed, there's a tremendous pressure there. And people who are employed, certainly in the sales realm or the business development realm, there's a pressure there as well.
Yeah.
And networking is not a short-term game, it's a long game.
Correct.
And it's easy to kind of get away from, okay, I got you on the line, and I need to ask, who's your financial advisor? It's like, dude, we met for the first time. I know, but I need to ask. It's like,
Yeah.
this isn't going to happen. And I always turn it back on them and say, well, how would you feel if you got into a call and somebody, I wouldn't like it. Well, what makes you think that the rules should be different for you? And some people get indignant about that. And some people, they just like, you're right. How can I be part of that 186?
Well, it pays off. That's what, again, you said it, long game. I try to tell people that when you develop, these little acorns, they become oak trees.
Yeah.
And what happens when you develop relationships, you invest a little bit more of that time early. I call it the ABCs of networking, but I start with EFGH. When you have these relationships, things happen easier. They also happen faster.
Yeah.
The outcomes are greater. And as a result, you're happier. And the other things that come with that, and that's a topic for a whole other conversation, is your health. You're significantly healthier when you've got these kinds of relationships. You don't feel lonely. Again, all these the EFGs of the world really just make you better, and you show up better, and you also have a lot more value that you're then able to bring to the table for the other people that are part of your networks.
Yeah.
I know this.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I totally agree. All right, last topic here. The double opt-in. Infamous double opt-in. And I'm not saying I disagree with you, but for our listeners, Adam is one of these people, and I'm not picking on you, but this is how you are. You're busy. Listen, if you're going to introduce somebody to me, get my approval first, get their approval, my approval, and then you can make the introduction. That's the double opt-in. And then there are other people out there that are like, bring it. I just bring it. And I don't think either is wrong. It's just where you're at.
Yeah. Do you care for my perspective?
No, I absolutely want your perspective. Yeah.
So, first and foremost, I'm just appreciative of someone thinking of me. So regardless of that, thank you for any time that for some reason my name pops up. I appreciate you having me on your mind. So I want to be very clear about that. But the reason I'm a big fan of the double opt-in, meaning, and again, just getting permission from both parties prior to making an introduction, is again that we're all busy. I'm not busy. There's nothing special about me, but we all have things in our lives that are going on, and it comes back to how do you prioritize? So if I see a subject line that says referred by Frank Agan, I'm taking that call, I'm taking that email, regardless, right? You're at the Mount Rushmore of people, so I'm doing that. So if it's not somebody that I can't help immediately, or maybe they can't help me with all the things that are happening in my life right now, I'm getting to the point where I'm having to say no to people. And to me, I feel it's so hard for me to say no. It hurts me to say no. And as a result, I feel that nobody wins in that situation. You don't win because, hey, here you put your name behind me saying, hey, this is a guy or gal, whoever it is that you're referring that can help. I don't win because I feel super guilty, not only just to you, but also to whoever, if you're putting your name behind. And then they don't win because maybe they're less apt to follow up, depending upon whatever it might be. So that's one thing. The other thing that I like, and I feel like I should touch on just when people are making an introduction, is to make sure two things. Well, a couple things. Make the introduction, suggest why you made the introduction. Another thing I recommend is make sure that you identify who should take the lead on the introduction, because more often than not, you get these people with these egos. Oh, well, I'm more important than this person, so they should respond.
Yeah.
And you see these emails kind of like die on the vine. And then another thing with these introductions is to if you're receiving an introduction, to follow up and say thank you. Getting back to what we just talked about before. Hey, Frank, thank you for thinking of me. Let me tell you about what the outcome was. And both parties should really do the thanking. Whoever you referred as well as whoever you were referred to. Also, just to kind of close the loop. Again, you're using your social capital, and that should be respected, right? Like they don't, people take that for granted. The time, think about how much time you had to take for us, just, let's just use this example, for me to then to know you well enough to just take your referral. So that's a lot of time that you've invested, and they're getting to trade on that time.
Yep.
So be respectful of that, be appreciative of that, because you know what, even if the outcome might not have been what you're looking for, you're going to be happy to maybe try to help them again.
Yeah.
That's the other time. Sometimes I'll say when I make an introduction, please keep me apprised of the outcome and what else I might be able to do that can help. And the people that follow up with me, now I'm in. I mean, I've got skin in the game to see them through on whatever the ask might have been with them. So
Yeah.
I've gone on a little bit of a tangent here, but I think you understand where I'm going with this.
No, I totally do. I think, and again, I don't think there's any wrong answer. I think I think for the listener, it's like, number one, ask, right? Ask of, how do you prefer this to be done? Hey, I'm a double opt-in person. Okay, great. I will abide by that. It's a little extra work, makes me think a little more on the front end, because I don't want to waste my time asking, your time answering, when it's like, what, there's not a snowball's chance in hell this thing's really makes any sense at all, right? But I think it's good to ask on the front end. And even with people who say, hey, just send people to me, I'll still ask when it's kind of a fringe sort of an introduction. You know what, this person I'm talking to, I see you offering a whole lot more than they could ever offer you. Are you still okay with it? And just kind of giving them the opportunity to opt out. And I don't know. Yeah.
So it's great. So even that's great too, because sometimes I'd rather just help somebody. And that's a great. And a lot of times people take that for granted. Oh, what do I get out of this? Well, you get having the ability to benefit somebody's life, and be thankful and be appreciative if you don't need something. Again, that's the whole idea of just make those deposits. Maybe you might not need something, or you don't think that they might be able to help you immediately. But think about all the other people in your networks that potentially might need something from that person. Again, getting back to the long game, getting back to understanding the value of fringe friends, and how far social capital really, really can take you.
Yeah. No, I'm amazed at the little things that seem like there really is not a connection. There's really not any potential there, turns into something great. And I'm equally amazed by the ones that I thought would be, wow, this is a no-brainer. And it's it was a brainer. It wasn't going to work. That's probably not the right way to say it. Wrapping up here. How can the audience help you? How can they get a hold of you?
Just networkwise.com. I offer a host of free services and templates and things, from everything on how to reach out to people on LinkedIn, to the double opt-in. A lot of these things that I offer are free. What I do for a living, people pay me to come into their organizations and teach them how to network. That's what we do. I mean, in a nutshell. So if anyone feels that there's some value in that, I'd love to talk to them. And if they're a friend of yours, Frank, I'm just happy to talk to them.
Well, I appreciate that. Let's do this again sometime.
Yes, sir. Indeed.
Thanks for joining us on the Networking RX podcast. Please put what you've learned into action today and let us know if you have questions, comments, or ideas for future topics. You can email them to us at podcast@amspirit.com. That's AmSpirit.com. Finally, so you never miss an episode, be sure to subscribe to the Networking RX podcast through iTunes, Overcast, or however you receive your podcasts. Now get out and network with someone.
The Networking RX podcast is the copyright production of AmSpirit Business Connection. All rights reserved.